As we go throughout time, we're still anticipating that west coast impact on the state of Florida. And we are looking at a Category 4 storm. This is catastrophic. People are going to lose homes. So it's a threat to life. It's a threat to property. So we're going to watch this very closely because we are about 16 hours away from landfall. This is what we're looking at right now. We're looking at winds at 155 miles per hour. Yes.
Hi, Martin here at Gemini Walk and Talk. And I wanted to talk about why I'm really glad that I did not move to Florida, even though I really like Florida, and I considered very hard moving there in 2020. And I really don't mean to knock the people of Florida or kick them while they're down right now, but I just think, looking at what's happening there, about what if we had moved. And the truth is, it looks horrific to me. So a little prefix here. We went to Florida in 2017, 18, and we really liked it. In a lot of ways, it was great, and it's nice and tropical, always summer, looked very pleasant. Real estate prices were better by far than the West Coast, and a lot of the conditions look good, infrastructure looked good, many things look good about it. And in 2020, when things were really in a quite of a chaotic state, Florida started looking really good to a lot of people, and I thought about it very seriously. I looked around where could be a good place, and we had really liked Tampa area actually. So I looked in Tampa, and the prices looked amazing. I see them; they were so much cheaper than here in Seattle. So we could have sold one Seattle property, rented another one, and moved to Florida, and we would have saved a lot of money and all that. And a lot of people did do exactly that, because you saw in the numbers that so many people rushed to buy the real estate in Florida, especially on that shore, the Gulf shore, the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. And they jacked up the prices a lot, and they went up from something like 300 plus to 500 average. But where you look, it's never the average, it's always more. So a big spike in prices happened. And ever since then, things haven't really been going that well in Florida. And when it came to our decision why we didn't do it, it really all came down entirely to geography. And it really actually is my wife, Susie, that didn't want to move more than me. I probably would have done it if it was just me. But she actually is from the tropics, from Hawaii, and she thought about it. She's like, well, it's like Hawaii kinda, but it's actually worse. Much more extreme weather. The summers are worse with humidity and hurricanes, and there are no hills and mountains, so it's not as pretty. And so she thought I left Hawaii for a reason, and Florida would actually be a downgrade. So she now prefers the cooler temperate climate here. And I've never lived in a tropical place, so it to me sounds kind of like a dream, but I don't really know what it's like year round. So anyway, we didn't do it, and we're so glad right now, because when I look at these hurricanes hitting exactly in Tampa area, Tampa is getting hit twice back to back in 2 weeks, with swells of the water predicted to go between like 10 and 20 feet. Which means a one-story house easily gets submerged. If you're stuck in it, you drown, and everything you own gets destroyed. And they show pictures after it looks like the place has been nuked, like it's bombed. And it makes me think, you know, at the stage of life we're in, we had a baby in 2021. He is a 3-year-old now. And we also have another baby now this summer. And what if hurricanes were coming back to back, nuking our house, while we have this 2-month-old baby and a 3-year-old, and everything we have gathered to take care of them is underwater, getting destroyed. And this happens, or can happen, multiple times every single year, because in the end of the day, if you are living in Florida, you are living on a precarious sandbar stretching into the ocean, on the path of the worst hurricane season in the world, in the northern Atlantic. That's where the most hurricanes on average pass through. And no matter where you are in Florida, And as we saw, even all the way up to the Carolinas, 5 hours inland in the mountains, you actually can drown and everything you own can be washed away. Entire houses floating down or get torn off from the foundation and just tossed into the sky. And now this new hurricane that's coming right now, they're saying might actually be the worst hurricane in 100 years, or top 5 ever recorded, top 2, top 1. I don't know, but it looks apocalyptic. And it's the second one again in 2 weeks. So you just got hammered once like this, and now a much stronger one comes. And you start seeing crazy stuff like it has already spawned 50 tornadoes across Florida before it's even arrived. And you start wondering, how do these people think that this is the place to live? You know, like you put your nest there, you know, your everything. You plan out your life, your family, your children are there, your safe space in the world that you call yours. And it actually is somewhere where hurricanes come and spawn 50 tornadoes and then come and basically nuke the place and then flood it. Like, how can I have any peace and calmness about the place I have chosen to make a home if that's the case? I just couldn't. I don't understand how it's good. And now you see a lot of regret from people who did rush to buy into it in 2020, 2021, and the market has turned. You see stories about, you know, XYZ person from Virginia, where it's temperate, moved to Florida, and he was able to work remotely or something like that. And he bought a house, he uprooted his life, and then he lost the remote job. Now he has to move back to Virginia. Oh, but he cannot sell his house for the last 9 months because so many people are having these regrets. They've put their houses out on the market now, and there are too many of them. Prices have sunk something like $50,000 from the peak, which is 10%-ish, but most likely, given the conditions, they have a lot longer to go down. So it's already a buyer's market, even though if you bought in 2021, when I was thinking about it, you're still up, but you don't know for how long, and your house may be under 20 feet of water tomorrow. I don't know, guys. I really don't know how that is livable. To me, when I look at that happening every single summer and fall, it does not look like livable conditions to me. Meanwhile, you know, this is a fall day here in Seattle. You see people jogging with t-shirts. It's still quite nice. Yes, we do have 4 dark and colder months, but I prefer that over the summer and fall day experience in Florida, where you get nuked and drowned. And there was another big story there in Florida where there was a big condo building collapsed in Miami, and lots of people died. It became a huge scandal. And the issue is that they then discovered that so many of these buildings built at the same time, condos near the beach, because the terrain is so hazardous, their lifespan is something like 50, 60 years, and that is how old they are. And they have deemed them unfixable. And yet so many people have invested in them, which means, you know, a big part of their life savings in the form of equity are sunk in these buildings. They're unfixable and now therefore uninsurable. So the insurance companies have started pulling out of huge parts of the Florida market. And part of that is these condos are unfixable. Another part is the hurricane hazard. Flooding hazard is just too much money insurance has to pay out every year. So now there have been massive spikes in the insurance rates in Florida. And you're normally required by your mortgage lender to have insurance, so it's not something you can avoid usually. And even if you own outright, your house may just get torn from the foundation and fly away, so you lose the entire thing if you don't have insurance. So you'd be very crazy, of all places in Florida, to not have the home insurance. But now, let's say you're retired or so and you had budgeted $500 a month or something, $300 a month, and all of a sudden it doubles, triples, and becomes $1,000 or $600, or it is not at all insurable anymore. What do? You have to basically leave that and the investment burns, or you risk that the hurricane comes and nukes it. And so it's just really does not seem like a good place to live because of that. As an investment, financially, it sounds bad. as risk. It sounds bad. And simply the weather. You look at the weather, it can be nice a lot of the year, but the combination of hot and humid is not good, and it's really prevalent there. While if you live in a temperate place, you here on the West Coast, for example, the weather and the nature are superior. You have temperate and dry summers, and you have mountains, and that's something I really missed about potentially looking into moving to Florida. I really couldn't do it because I love mountains. I'm from near the mountains. I grew up on the biggest hill in town, right on the slopes of the Balkan Mountains, and I could not think of myself on a flat sandbar. That was something I was like, maybe when I'm 75 and my knees don't work, that will sound compelling, but wow, I can move. I want to climb mountains. And so, yeah, the weather too, I couldn't do that hot, humid. Altogether, you do all the math. And even the economy, that's another piece where the economy is not so developed there. There's two big sources of income. One is the tourism, which is big and huge. And then there is the retirees. But that's really it. They don't have very many or almost any top 500 companies. They don't draw much of that for a number of reasons. But when you actually look at the fundamentals of their economy, how much is the reliance on those two sectors and on housing, and how now the problems in housing are coming to roost, it actually is looking like a very shaky economy. And then you have the demographic cliff, which is approaching, while the boomer generation is the biggest, and they have retired at this point, or the last of them are retiring, and at some point they will not be around to sustain the market in Florida. Millennials are not as affluent. Will they be rushing to go to Florida? There's a huge chance that the Florida housing market will actually crash very hard. And then whoever invested or made a living making money from that is also going to go under. And so, and there's not much else, not much other industry to really work in. There was a movement or a momentum or a dream to make Miami into some kind of a tech hub with startups, especially financials. And there was a movement to move business from New York and the Northeast. And there are better taxes and so on, and laws, I think. But I don't see that manifesting all very much. When you look at the numbers, Miami's still nowhere near the top, really, when it comes to startups and tech. And too many people are actually leaving, they're giving up on that. So I don't think that will manifest either. And again, I don't mean to knock Florida per se. I really like Florida for many other reasons. But when you actually compare to what you may have somewhere else, and especially if you're living somewhere safe, temperate, developed, affluent, you probably don't want to move to Florida. And I'm really glad that we didn't. That's it for today. I really wish the best of luck to the people of Florida. I feel really, really bad every time I see these images, and I really don't understand how you can cope with something like that, especially if you're in the same stage of life as us with small kids, and you are extra sensitive to these kinds of disruptions and disasters hitting you. All right, that's it for now. Thank you.